take us through like when you have an offer, like a solar. So now you're like acting as like their external like media buyer to go find traffic, and you're doing it like in the affiliate division to find supply, people that are going to generate leads, right? Like, how do you go about doing that? How'd you figure out how to find good traffic that converts on the back end, right? You're working with the buyers.
Yeah. So and you're right. At the end of the day, the reason I love the lead business because it's people need leads. I think you said that in your very first podcast. I mean, it's without leads, you can't operate a sales organization. That's like oxygen or blood, for the body. So if you have good leads, I mean, you're always going to have a business, good compliant leads. So to make a long story short, what happened was, I mean, I just did the old school route. I knew there was lead conferences. I'd go to lead conferences like LeadsCon, things like that. And then I was network. I'd connect. I'd ask questions. I talk to people. I talk to publishers. What kind of leads do you have? I'm looking for solar leads, or I'm looking for mortgage leads, or Windows leads, whatever it is that I needed. And to take it a step further, I would use social media. I'd be part of some groups, WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups where you have media buyers in there. So I was pretty adept. A lot of it has to do with, knowing people, reading people. And at the end of the day, money talks, BS walks, right? But you do a test. If you think somebody makes sense, if you start asking the questions, what kind of like solar, the big metric is appointment set rate. Appointment set rates on Facebook leads or high intent leads range anywhere from 10 to 30%. The higher you are in that range, the more valuable your lead is. Because at the end of the day, the more people that actually set an appointment means more people you're going to sit with, pitch the deal, and then get a sale out of it. It's all correlated, right? So what they would say is,
that was what you're saying earlier with the KPIs, right?
Correct. The KPI, yes, going back to the KPIs. So at the end of the day, if someone says, hey, I'm at 30%, I'm like, okay, you know what? We'll do a test. We'll do $1,000 to $3,000, and we'll see if they're actually, they fall in line. And truth be told, if you do that, you're probably gonna, out of 10 people you test, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 are actually hit those numbers. So you minimize your loss, right? That you minimize the risk that you take on the people that don't work. And when you find people that work, then you press the gas like any other business. You scale it with them, and you go from $2,000-$3,000 initial spend. You do another test for maybe $5,000 to see if it backs out again. Then maybe you do it a third time to make sure it wasn't a fluke. And if that works, then you take the rails off a little bit. You the guardrails off a little bit, where you go to like, I don't know, 20 a day, 30 a day, 50 a day. And you got to watch it. You got to watch it yourself. In the beginning, that's where I spent my time in. I spent my time, looking at the metrics to make sure that it was working for the client. It all comes down to the client. If it's not working for the client, you're out of business. So I would look at solar is very fragmented in the sense that there's really no nationwide campaigns. Each state has different, policies for solar. Some states you can lease, you can finance. So that affects the metrics. There's some income requirements in certain states. So I had a client where we were going doing business for a month. They were doing terrible in Oklahoma, but doing great in Arkansas. I'm like, guys, I'm going to pause Oklahoma for you. And they were like shocked that I was doing that for them, because I don't want them to throw good money after bad money, So I said, we'll focus on Arkansas, we'll turn off Oklahoma. They loved that I did that, because no one ever did something like that for them. I'm looking out for the best interest, So they loved that I did that for them. And then it turned out that it wasn't a lead. 2 months later, it was something they hired a new sales rep in Oklahoma, outside sales rep. They told me to turn it back on, and it was working again. But they appreciated that honesty, that I'm just not, selling leads one time and then forgetting about them. Like, you got to be in the weeds and look at the numbers to make sure that it's working. So to make a long story short, it starts, you find the publishers, you got to go to the conferences, you got to network, you'll get referrals, you pay them on time. If they send you an invoice, you pay right away. They love that. Cash flow is everything in business. So, you treat them right. And once you find the ones that work, you scale them and you grow with them, and everybody wins.